Turn that down a little bit. That's a little bright this early in the morning. Welcome back, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be watching from. Welcome back to the channel. This is United vs. Everybody. I am your host, Sean, and we don't have a choice, right? We're going to talk about the result as United limped to a 3-3 draw yesterday. Our last few matches have not gone according to plan, right? We struggled against a very physical, very energetic, very intense FC 20 side last week. We ended that match in a 1 draw. Honestly, 20 should be gutted to not have gotten all 3 points, but it is what it is. We struggled against Spurs, and then none of us were really confident going into this match against Porto, right? A lot of us in the match prediction, a lot of us when we were talking about the next run of games that tenhag really needed to try to get a result in, we were not confident about going away to Porto. But we always seem to find our low expectations and make them even lower, this club. So it's a rare talent to be able to do that. I did say, though, in my match preview that this isn't the same Porto that we saw last season. And to our credit, to start the match, we did well. We did put them under pressure. We were pressing. We were winning the ball. We were creating those chances. We looked dangerous in the first few minutes. Unfortunately for us, while Porto may not be the same Porto that they were last season, we are the still same old United. Our press, it is what it is. All it takes is conceding 1 goal for the cracks to start to form, and then 7 minutes later, Porto equalized, and it became a clusterfuck. There's no other way around it. We'll go into some of the details, of course, obviously, with our match redaction. I want to give my 3 takeaways on the match. We'll talk a little bit about starting 11, then we'll talk a little bit about what tenhag had to say after as well. But yes, we're here today to react to Manchester United's 3-3 draw against FC Porto on the road in our second Europa League game of the season. Let's get started by starting off a little bit by looking at how we lined up on the night, because I do want to get your thoughts on that starting 11. Same defense, not really a choice in there, right? We no fit left backs. Dallow's got to play. It is what it is. No Manu in the squad. I know he was training and everything, but I guess he wasn't fit enough to feature. And so I saw that starting lineup and saw Eriksen and Casemiro in midfield. And 5 years ago, you probably look at a Manu, all right, an Eriksen, Casemiro double pivot and say, awesome, that looks great. Recently, though, it's just not filling me with confidence, not because they're necessarily horrible. It's just they're not the same players they were. Casemiro is not, in my opinion, Casemiro is not a defensive midfielder anymore. He's now an 8. He's now getting more involved higher up the pitch. He's not good recovery pace. If you're coming at him with the ball, he's going to go to ground and he's going to bring you down and he's going to get a tackle and get a challenge or a card, or you're just going to bypass him altogether. He can't do that anymore. It's just the way it is. Maybe the thought was from tenhag that our defense has been good enough that it didn't matter if Eriksen and Casemiro were playing. Maybe the point was that, but at the same time, it backfired, right? It's just too easy to get through that midfield. It was nice to see Højlund get a start. I was really happy to see that, and I think that paid off in dividends well. He took his goal very, very well, which we'll talk more about a little later on. But now I just need Højlund to stay fit. That's the big thing with Højlund. Højlund is just one of the big number 9s that we have. Xerxes is not really an out-and-out number 9, which is fine. We need, and I don't mind having different profiles, but we need someone who's just going to cause a lot of problems in the box, going to have good movement, going to pick up some good spaces, someone who's going to put these chances away. And we've seen that Højlund has done that, and we've seen that yesterday as well. I'll get to tenhag's post-match comments in a bit, but again, let me know your thoughts on the starting lineup, what you guys thought of, especially that midfield, and we'll go from there. But I'll talk about my 3 thoughts on the match first and foremost. So why don't we get started with that, with my first thought. So number 1, indefensible defending. Like, I don't know what else to say. It was just, it's not a good match. Now, we've done well to keep some clean sheets, and you could say Mazraoui has been really, really good. De Ligt has been good in some spurts, but Licha has just not been on it. Like I said, if tenhag's plan with an Eriksson Casemiro pivot was to rely on our defense. It did not go according to plan today, because our defending got progressively worse as the match went on. And we saw a lot of the same old issues that have caused us problems in recent years. One pass splits us open. Simple cutbacks see us give up a goal. No one closes down the ball at the edge of the box, and cross after cross after cross finds its way into dangerous areas where there's 3 or 4 Porto players just waiting for it. We were at 6s and 7s between De Ligt, Licha, Mazraoui after Porto equalized in the first half. We just didn't know. Everyone was lost. They didn't know where to go. Everyone was constantly making these last-ditch efforts because we just didn't know what to do. Licha, in particular, had another stinker and sort of started going rogue a little bit towards the end there with some wild attempts at goal. Honestly, I mean, I don't know what he was thinking with that one shot. I mean, it made a good souvenir for somebody up in Rosie or Rosette, depending on where you're watching from. De Ligt was just as bad, though, too. He looked like it was his first day as a footballer a few times. Just wasn't getting the right side of his man in the box over and over. And he's failing to attack those crosses into our area. Like, you can't defend. If the ball's coming in from your left side, you need to be on the left side of the people you're marking. And he's constantly on the wrong side. And it just, time and time again, that's day one defensive errors, in my opinion. Porto got numbers forward, and they got a lot of numbers in and around our box, just like we said they would in our preview. And their movement, especially from Yusta Kiao, I think that's how you say his name, their movement caused us a lot of problems. This Dalot and Rashford, in particular, on our left side, were just failing to handle a lot of those balls coming in the box. Dalot just was not closing down his man enough, and it was really frustrating. He, in particular, really needs to work on that, because all these crosses were coming in from his zone, his man. He was guilty of this against Brighton, too, early in the season. Remember that some of these balls just coming into the box, and he's just got 5 yards between him, and he's just standing off. You know, he's bent down. He's kind of jockeying a little bit. Just go in and make a challenge. What are you waiting for? And he did the same thing a few times last season. You remember that loss to Chelsea? You know, the reason we gave up that game in the last seconds is because the ball comes in the edge of the box, and no one pays attention to it. Dalot comes out way too late, and he's got 10 yards to make up, and by then it's too late. Yeah, I tried to block that one out of my memory, but it's worth repeating because Dalot in that particular area of defense really needs to do better. And I know everyone's going to look at this and say, you just did a video last week on how he was like this best player. I never said Dalot was our best player. I've never said anything like that. Dalot, in this system that we're trying to play, in the buildup that we're trying to do, Dalot just happens to be our most important player in that system. There's a big difference between saying someone is an important player to the system and someone is our best player. Pay attention to the words I use. In any case, we tempted fate time and time again every time we let Porto put a ball into the box, and it led to their first goal. You're not going to get away with it that many times. You know, it just is what it is. It's basic defending, and we're shit at it. And we've been shit at it for several years now, not just under Tenhag. Letting a 2-goal lead slip in the first half due to simple defensive mistakes, though, is just inexcusable. And to be honest, I think that Onana needs to stop palming shots back into the box. He's been guilty of this since he joined us. Just palm it off to the side. You know, it's getting a bit ridiculous because that's what led to their second goal. Yes, the ball came in and got back out, but Onana palms it back in, and what's his face? Mario is just there to put it away. So we were also nearly undone early on in the second half after one pass completely disrespects our high line, and their left back, Porto's left back, Mora, I think his name was, again, carbon copy from some of the goals we've conceded recently. He carries it all the way from his own half into our box and gets a shot off to force a corner. Like, third match running now, someone's been able to pick a ball up in their own half and carry it all the way into our box to cause problems. Like, how is this happening over and over and over again? The warning signs were there. We just didn't switch back on. And then, as if on cue, yet another simple cutback sees us concede a third goal in the 50th minute, 5 minutes into the second half. And honestly, Ten Hag's going to bear the blame, but these defensive mistakes are not on Ten Hag. I'm not saying Ten Hag is without blame. We're going to get to that later. But the individual defensive errors are not on Ten Hag. And so it's going to be it's just it's shit defending. And it's going to be an eternal debate, I think, right now. Not just with United right now, but just in football. Is it Ten Hag's system that put the players in those positions to concede those simple goals? Or should the players be doing better in those moments? Former players, even Maguire after the fact has, said we've got to do better in these moments. But Ten Hag has said, as a team defensively, we need to do better. It's probably a little bit of both, to be honest, right? I think that both things can be true. So let me know what your guys' thoughts on there. But I think the defense yesterday was just shambolic. I think it was just embarrassing at times. We just didn't look like we had any clue what we were doing. And that's, whether you want to say it's a system thing or an individual thing, it is what it is. I call it more of a mentality thing, which is more of a general statement. But you guys let me know your thoughts on the defending. Number 2, Rashford and Højlund were bright sparks yesterday. So I was a little worried in the at first when I saw how slowly we were moving the ball yesterday. We just didn't look quite like we had the energy. I know that the plane flight was delayed and there's probably a little bit of jet lag, whatever, but these players are used to it. But as we've seen with other sides we face, Porto were very quick to get back in numbers, and I was starting to struggle to see how we were going to get through that. It's time and time again. We move the ball just a little too slowly, one too many touches, one too many passes. Just we need to be a little bit more direct. But then as I'm sitting there thinking, like, what is this going to be the same story over again? Rashford pops up in the 7th minute. Brilliant bit of skill to beat two men in the box, to split these defenders like the Red Sea, create a little space for himself, and get a shot away. And you could partly say a lot of this had to do with Diogo Costa. I thought Diogo Costa was not great yesterday overall. Let a few things. He was just weak. His hands were a little weak. He let a couple or 2 of our goals go in at his near side, and it just wasn't great goalkeeping. But he's young. We'll see. But I did tell you Rashford has been looking good in recent weeks. And I'm really happy to see that he took that shot himself because the shot was on. He made the space for himself, and it was up to him to take it. Danny, good morning, buddy. Says morning. He'll be gone by the weekend. Talking about Ten Hag. Yeah, we're gonna get to Ten Hag. And what a piece of skill for Rashford to beat those 2 defenders in the box and make that space. It's nice to see Rashford also adding some more assists to his game and finding Højlund. He was repeatedly trying to find Højlund, and then he did grab an assist after he found him and he nearly got a second assist. He nearly got a third with a ball into the box that was almost an own goal, honestly, but it was a good ball into the box. I think it was a dangerous ball, and there was a dangerous ball with how it almost became an own goal. It was hard to deal with that ball. I thought Rashford and Højlund were linking up very nicely. Rashford's numbers, again, were solid. He completed all of his dribbles. In fact, he completed the most dribbles in a match. He had 8 touches in the box, put in a defensive shift as well, winning his 1 tackle, winning all 4 of his ground duels. And according to Statman Dave, too, I saw this morning, Rashford now has as many non-penalty goals as Kylian Mbappe, and he has more non-penalty goals than Vinicius Jr. But then he gets hooked at halftime. So we're going to talk more about that later. But Rashford is partly why I do think a 3-5-2 could really work for us, as he's not really a winger in the sense that he stays wide and puts balls in the box. Rashford excels in that inside channel as an inside forward, kind of like Thierry Henry, or even like Martial used to play for us. He just works best in the channel. I think he and Højlund together in the right system could really complement each other, and I really think that they could wreak havoc as well. Because while they both possess a few of the same traits, the speed and the power and the shot power, I think that they also have enough differences that they complement each other as well. Danny says, I only watched the last 20 minutes. Well, you saw the equalizer. I guess you got lucky there. Go back and watch the first 5, 6, 7 minutes, and we actually look pretty good. Again, it's nice to see Rashford trying to find Højlund as well, do his job as, the winger, I guess you could call it, because when you have a striker, you have to also create as well. Again, speaking of Højlund, so Højlund, bright spark, 1 shot, 1 goal, and he's back. How great is it to have Højlund back? He came in, first shot, first goal. I love it. He pressed well. He had really good movement in the area. He used his strength to create space for himself as well. He had that brilliant run in the second half where he fought off a Porto defender just inside his own half on the left side and then carried the ball from his own half into their box and put it just outside their box, actually, and put in a beautiful ball for Ahmad, who had Ahmad had slid in, or if he'd just been a little faster, he probably could have grabbed the goal there. And I'm not going to, it's going to sound like I'm completely neglecting Xerxes. I'm not slagging off Xerxes, but Højlund is just a straight up number 9, that's what he's going to do. He's going to put away chances. And Højlund has shown that his shot conversion is top notch. And he showed it again yesterday. He exceeded his XG yesterday, meaning the goal he scored not only was it his first shot of the game, but it was also an incredibly difficult shot to make when his XG is like 0.2 something and you're scoring already. Like, that's very good conversion rate from a striker. He's a warrior in the box. He fights for everything. He fights for every ball. He fights for every inch of space he can get. And that's what we need to see. And that's, I think, what we've been missing in that final third is someone who's not only going to put away the chances, but who's going to fight to put away the chances. We need some more fight in that area of the pitch. Now, if only he could stay fit, I think he could single-handedly fix our GD in the league right now. He just has to stay fit. Eriksen had another good showing, I thought. He grabbed 2 assists, created 6 chances, the most chances created in the match. So I want to big up Eriksen there. He was also completing a lot of his dribbles too. He also won 3 of his ground duels as well. And the problem is, it's a little sad that we're relying so much on Eriksen right now. He's almost becoming the new McTominay, where because he's done well and no one else is, it's like, well, now we just need to bring on Eriksen because no one else is doing anything. It's just not good that we're in Ten Hag's 3rd year and we're relying on a player in his 30s who we signed as a free agent, who was injured for half of a season basically, to come on and do something for us. But that's where we're at. And I'm not trying to disrespect Eriksen. I'm just saying this is the situation that we find ourselves in. So it's not make for good reading. And I do want to praise Ahmad. I've been a little critical of Ahmad in recent weeks, not because he's been poor or anything like that. It's just because he hasn't really been getting himself as involved in these matches as I'd want to. He hasn't been getting a lot of touches, not a whole lot of passes. And it's good to see him yesterday getting more involved because I thought he was solid. 24 of 24 passes completed for Ahmad, which was the best in the match. I mean, it's hard to do better than 100%, I guess. So it is what it is. He created 3 chances, had 3 touches in the box, and he also won 4 out of 6 of his ground duels. So big match for Ahmad. I was happy to see him. He looked dangerous when he was getting in the box as well. Like to see him just get that shot off a little quicker, but it is what it is. I'm not going to split hairs. Ziad, welcome to the channel, bud. It says, we want Tuchel. Do you want Thomas Tuchel? We'll talk. Why don't we save that for towards the end when I talk about Ten Hag a little bit. We can talk a little bit about managers. But we'll get there. Thanks for checking out the channel. But don't forget to like the video if you haven't yet. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new and you want to get your opinion out there. This channel is all about you guys. It's you getting your opinion heard. I respond to every comment. I read out every live chat because it's your opinion. This channel is built by that. And I do appreciate the engagement. We're on the road to 2K subscribers. So keep liking the videos. Keep subscribing to the channel. Help us grow to 2K if you want, especially if you want to get entered in these giveaways. I've got a fun little item popping up in the mail. So when that gets here, I'll let you guys know, but I got that specifically for you guys for the next giveaway. So as my appreciation, but Danny B, big up, man. You're always, that's why you're the mod, Danny. That's why you're just the go-to, man. You just do what you can, and I love it. I am starting to lose a little faith in FootMob's player ratings, though. So I have FootMob on my phone. I don't like to put a whole lot of stuff on my phone. It's pretty streamlined, but I have FootMob, so I check FootMob. But I'm starting to lose a little faith in some of their player ratings. I'm starting to think there's an agenda there because Casemiro's rating is a little bit lower than I thought it should be, especially when you compare it to other players. Again, I thought Casemiro had a solid game, especially now that he's playing a little higher up in the opposition half. Completed 51 out of 58 of his passes, created 4 chances, 72 touches on the ball, 2 touches in the box, and 3 out of 5 ground duels won for Casemiro. So I thought Casemiro, again, moving him higher up the pitch has, honestly, it's changed his game a little bit for the better. The higher up the pitch, I don't want to see Casemiro anywhere near our defense when we don't have the ball because he's just a liability. Ziad says, Aussie too, what time did you have to stay up to watch that performance? Are you in Australia? I'm in America, so the match was at 3 p.m. my time yesterday. So I think that's what, 8 p.m. UK time. I don't know what time that is in Australia. Let me know. Danny says, from what I watched, Cass looked good. Yeah, Casemiro looks just fine, as long as he's playing more as an advanced position. Anywhere deeper, Casemiro is just, it's like Pogba and Eriksen levels of defending now. And it's just he's older now and he just can't hang. That's why we got Ugarte. So Ziad says, nah, I'm from Leicester, England. I sound Aussie. I have an Australian accent. Oh, no. I've not heard that one yet. Danny B says, there's a Detroit right beside me in town over from my brother, Sean. Yeah. Detroit's probably about 25 minutes from me. And then Ann Arbor is probably like 20 minutes the other way. So I'm in an area where kind of right in between both. That's kind of the thing in Michigan. It's kind of the thing in the States. There's a lot of just suburbs. Everything is like 15, 20 minutes from one another. And so we don't have a whole lot of public transportation or anything like that. It's just everybody just drives because it's all a bunch of suburbs. And so Danny Beth says, my buddy moved to Detroit 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I mean, Detroit's been changing a little bit in the last 10, 15 years. It's a fun little city. I wish that they would upgrade some of the road systems. It's very confusing sometimes when you're not from Detroit to try to drive around Detroit because there's a lot of one-ways, a lot of weird road systems because those roads were laid out a long time ago before all these people were here. But it is what it is. Danny says his wife was originally from there. Nice, man. Small world. So as good as these players have been stats-wise, though, there is more to it than just stats, right? Rio Ferdinand said this morning on his channel that we're now conceding 2 goals in 10 minutes or less in 5 of our last European games since the start of last season. That is not great. These experienced players on the pitch really need to manage the game better and manage the team mentality better. They're supposed to be leaders, and I need to see it from them. What are they doing to motivate each other? What are they doing to make sure everybody stays switched on? Where are the leaders to organize the defense when Porto are able to put ball after ball after ball into the box? Well, who's talking about everybody getting forward? Who's talking about everybody clearing their lines? Who's fighting for those balls? Who's taking the initiative there? That's what I need to start seeing. The same kind of effort and initiative that Rasmus has been showing in the box on the other side of the pitch. We need to see that more in defense. We need to see some more organization. Licha used to do it. Licha's been a shadow of himself this season, as we already discussed. But I need to see some more from these leaders on the pitch because right now the mentality game is the one we're losing most of all. Win the mental game, you're going to win the physical game, and that's just fact. So we need to be doing better, and the players need to take a look at themselves. They need to be having hard conversations with each other, and someone needs to speak up and say, listen, we know we have it in our feet, in our legs, but we know we have it. We need to have it up here. So do better, and that's all I have to say about that. So moving on. Number 3, not enough to save Tenhag. Not in my opinion. I don't think that I'm alone in that. You guys let me know your thoughts if that's enough to save Tenhag. But it's a draw, yes. Again, we didn't lose. It's a draw. But salvaging a 3-3 result of the game when you were ahead by 2 goals in the first half does not help Tenhag's case. It's harsh. I'll admit it's harsh, right? But because the defensive errors that cost us weren't necessarily his fault directly. I think many of the individual errors we've seen from these players in the last 2 years has not been his fault. The less said about Champions League last year, the better. But it doesn't matter. Like I said the other day, Ten Hag is going to face the consequences of these results nonetheless, because that's the nature of the job. That's management. That just is how it is. You sign up for it. When you shake the owner's hand, when you sign the piece of paper, you sign up for the fact that, yep, if things go well, awesome. If things don't, whether it's my fault or not, it's going to be on me. That's part of management. It's not about the why anymore. It's about the what, and the what is these kind of results. Ten Hag doesn't help himself with these changes that he's making in the match, and today was no different. Taking off Rashford at halftime when he was arguably our most dangerous player was yet just another ridiculous decision from Ten Hag, in my opinion. The football we resorted to in the second half was uninspiring, to say the least, and it only made us more vulnerable. Like, what is Dalot doing in basically just outside the box, just holding in that like number 10 spot while we were maintaining possession and everything? Like, when we repeatedly saw how vulnerable we were down our left side. But Dalot is central. He's high up the pitch. Like, what were you relying on? Garnacho to be fullback there? It doesn't make sense to me. We were exposed and shaky, and it was just too easy to play through that. There's no movement from anyone when we had possession. Everyone's just standing with their back to goal while we pass the ball around. No one's trying to do anything. And the people that were trying to do something weren't getting seen. There was no urgency. Evans and Maguire were taking way too long to move the ball. Garnacho was literally on the left wing screaming for it, hopping up and down in frustration because no one's even looking at him. Johnny Evans just sitting there. All you have to do is turn your head a couple degrees, and Garnacho is literally in acres of space, and we just didn't do it time and time again. And it's infuriating, too, especially considering how dangerous we looked down our left wing all game. Danny says, when I saw we were 2 up and then looked score halftime 2-2, I was like, that's it, finished. Then I saw 2 CBs and Erasmus off, and I was done. Yeah, and you missed the like Rashford took at halftime, man. Like, we get to the 70th minute yesterday, and we just resort to David Moyes' ball, basically. Just leave everyone in the box, spam crosses from deep, and hopefully we can knock something down and bang it home. We don't have McTominay anymore to do that. We sold him. It is what it is. McTominay was like the only player we had who can do something in those situations. And then thank fuck for Harry Maguire's huge fucking head to grab a late equalizer on that corner, because I don't know about you, but I almost turned off the TV at that point. I just didn't see any way that we were going to claw back a result. We just didn't look like we had it in us. And again, eventually, yeah, you resort to David Moyes' tactics. Eventually, one of these balls is going to find its way into the net. It just is what it is. But is that where we are now? Because it wasn't like we only did that in the last seconds. We were doing that from the 70th minute on. That was what our plan was. And I knew as soon as Maguire was brought into the match, I knew exactly what we were going to do. He was going to stay a little forward when we had possession. He was going to remain forward when we had set pieces and stuff in case we got the ball back. And he was just going to basically take up that number 9 position sometimes. And that's what we did. His goal saved us a point, but it definitely didn't spare us any blushes. And it's not a stretch to think that it did not do anything to impact Ten Hag's future for the better. Ten Hag's been on very thin ice, and while we did grab a point on the road against a tough side, Porto, it's a tough stadium to go away to. The atmosphere, the crowd, it's tough to play there. I'll give him that. But the events of the full 90 minutes only just added more cracks right to that ice. Danny B says, Bruno looked back again from what I saw. We'll talk a little bit about Bruno here. So, and then you got right before I got to the point here. So Bruno was sent off for the second time this week. The boot was high, but it's not like Bruno was making a tackle in midfield or anything. He was literally trying to control a ball into the opposition box so he could try to get a score. He has every right to go for that ball. He made zero contact with the player. He didn't even see Noah and Perez coming from behind him. He just put his boot up, try to win the ball. It's unlucky that Perez comes in and he doesn't even make contact with him. Like, I'm trying to explain away, like, oh, Bruno did see him. Like, Bruno literally didn't make contact with his head. Only at United do players get sent off for making zero contact. I've seen so many people attacking Bruno for that as well. Let me ask you a hard question. If that were Højlund in the box, fighting for that ball, trying to get on the end of it and do something, nobody would have shit to say about it. Everyone would be saying, oh, they'd be praising him for his fight. They'd be saying he has every right to go for that. That's what you need from your strikers. But because it's Bruno, everybody is going to attack him. Agenda is going to agenda, though, right? And on your point, Danny, Bruno looked bad. Bruno actually had a decent game. He wasn't doing bad. His numbers were very good. And so I'm not going to go in too harshly on Bruno for that. Did Varela play well? Varela grew into the game, but I didn't think Varela had his best game. From what I've seen from Varela, especially from last year, he didn't look great. But Porto in general didn't look great until after they went up 3-2. And then they kind of started to be a little bit more compact. And then you started to see a little bit more from guys like Varela. But I didn't think Varela had a great match. He had a couple moments toward the end that were good, but that's about it from Varela. Not his best match. But I thought Bruno was actually having a decent game from what I've seen. His passing percentage was up about 10% from what we have seen. Let me bring up his numbers again because I didn't write them down. So Bruno's numbers yesterday, 84% pass accuracy, which was much better. He created 4 chances yesterday, had 3 shots. None of the shots were on target, but it's Bruno. But 67 touches. He had 2 touches in the box, 6 passes into the final third. Accurate long balls were fine. Tackles 1 were fine. He's making clearances, making recoveries. I mean, Bruno didn't have a bad match. It's probably not anywhere near what we've seen from Bruno over the years, but compared to what we've seen from Bruno throughout the season so far, much better. So he wasn't playing poorly, and he just the red was just the second yellow, I guess you call it, is stupid. Now I've seen people saying like, why give the ref a decision to make? Again, he's going for a ball into the box. The player comes from behind him. He doesn't even make contact with Perez's head. Like, it's not reckless. It's not even like he's trying to make a tackle. He's trying to just get on the end of that and steer it home. It's ridiculous, man, but it is what it is. The ref was just not great. I'm not blaming the ref for the match. I'm just like, it's decisions like that I'm not a fan of. And even then, like, we were awarded a free kick pretty much in the last seconds of that. So the ref blows the whistle, gives us a free kick, but then blows the final whistle before we take the free kick. Like, what was the point of calling the foul in the first place? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's absolutely ridiculous. There was a match, like, I want to say it was probably like 8 or 9 years ago, where we were awarded a corner in like the last seconds of the match, and we go to line up to take the corner, and then the ref blows the whistle. We don't even get to take it. Like, what is the point of awarding the corner? It doesn't make sense. I don't know. I thought it was stupid. Well, those are my thoughts. Indefensible defending. Rashford and Højlund were bright sparks, and then I don't think this helps Ten Hag at all. Let's look at what Ten Hag has had to say. So, speaking to the media after the match, Ten Hag did give his explanation for subbing Rashford at halftime, and I'm not going to lie, it's not a great explanation, you guys. Apparently, Ten Hag hooked Rashford in order to rotate ahead of this weekend's match against Aston Villa. Like, are you kidding me? That's why you took Rashford off at 45 minutes when he was our best player on the match, when he's in a really good run of form. You take him off because you need to rotate ahead of. So what you're telling me is you already have one eye on the weekend game and you're not focusing on the game. You see out the match you're literally in the middle of before worrying about the next one. It's shit like that makes it like so frustrating and so pretty much impossible to defend Ten Hag these days. It doesn't make sense. You don't take off your most dangerous player when he's doing so well. Like, it's little things like that. I've said before, even pebbles make big ripples. Little decisions like that are going to have huge ramifications for Ten Hag. And it's anyone's guess what might have happened had Rashford stayed on the pitch, but I think we can all guess what could have happened. We could have very easily created some more chances, could have even gotten another goal. But this is the kind of thing. This is what I've said many times. The point is not Ten Hag in or out anymore. It's you support, you want him to do well, but it's decisions like that that are going to ultimately decide his own fate. And he knows it, we know it. So just there's no point arguing about whether or not he should stay or should he go. Just he's going to get himself sacked or he's going to get himself back with decisions like that. There's nothing we can do. And it's for that decision to me is more frustrating when you look at the context of what Ten Hag has been criticizing in recent weeks with our lack of goals. And he spoke about Rashford needing to find form the other week. So, like, we're getting goals now. Rashford comes on, gets an assist, gets a goal. He's finding his form, but then you take him off. Like, he's literally in form and scoring goals, and you take him off. It doesn't make sense to me. Ten Hag kind of explained it away by saying, Garnacho has also been good, and he also needs minutes. So I hear a little bit of that. But like, it doesn't make sense. Put Garnacho on the right if that's the thing. I just don't get why you change something that's working, and it's not the first time that Ten Hag's done that. And so it's, again, decisions like that, it just boggle the mind. What else did Ten Hag have to say? He said that he had mixed feelings after we started so well against a tough side, and the players executed the plan brilliantly to start. In truth, he's right. We had 29 shots to Porto's 14, and we had 16 shots inside the box. We were doing pretty well to get those chances off. But he did lament how easily we switched off, how easily we failed to maintain possession, conceding unnecessary goals. And he did say, like, the atmosphere of the stadium made it worse. That's a throwaway statement, in my opinion. He continued to criticize the defending, but he praised United for for being able to grab the equalizer, saying, the spirit, the fight was there. He was very clear that when he says we defended poorly, he was very clear to make a distinction between defenders and the way we defended. He wasn't blaming just the defenders. He was actually criticizing the way the whole team defended. So I hear him say that, but he's right, in that regard. But again, what that does is it points to the system and takes the spotlight off the players and puts it on himself, which as a manager, what you want to do. But again, all it does is make it harder to find excuses. So now you're saying that this is the way we're playing this, the tactics, the system, or the reason for that. Now, some of you are going to hear me say that, and you're going to say, hang on, Sean, you just said that individual errors were costing us. Yeah, well, guess what? Two things can be true at the same time. Tenhag's tactics and the system and the mentality can be a problem, but also the individual decision-making and the mistakes can cost us as well. It's just the way the world is. Life isn't as black or white as some people think. There's a shitload of gray area in there. Both can be true at the same time. Ten Hag threw out the resilience line again, which I can personally think is bullshit. There is no resilience in this squad. Just because you grab a goal in the last seconds off a corner, that's not resilience. Resilience isn't one moment. Resilience is about the 90 minutes that happened before that. Resilience is about how you respond to each mistake, each setback, each piece of adversity that you encounter throughout an entire match. Resilience has nothing to do with grabbing a last-minute goal off a corner. That's ridiculous. Like I said, I'll send you my CV, United. Come hit me up. We're 6 matches in to the Premier League season, which is kind of early, but Ten Hag's already out there talking about how we just started the season. Like, he's making this excuse like it's still early in the season. The season just started. We're 6 matches into the Premier League, 2 matches into the Europa League, and we've already played a Carabao Cup. We're 9 matches into the season in all competitions. That's not just starting the season. That's the equivalent of like almost a quarter of a Premier League season. And he's still banging on about having to integrate Manuel Ugarte. You're killing me, Erik. You're killing me right now. How many clubs need this much time to integrate new players? How many clubs have grabbed Ajax or players from the Eredivisie and they've hit the ground running? Like, how much time are you going to need? Now, I know that I've said from the summer I wanted us to get these players in early because I do think they're going to need time, but that was by choice on the club. So there's very little excuses. It's like Arsenal having a young squad. That's by choice. You're running out of excuses when it's an active choice. Ugarte has played. He's a professional footballer. He doesn't need time. Play him. At the end of the day, there are still 6 matches left to go in this league phase, but 2 points after 2 matches puts us in 21st in the Europa League already. A win in the next match could jump us up the table a bit, but it's a long shot against Fenerbahce. If we can barely manage a result against Porto, we know Jose Mourinho is going to shithouse his way to something. Especially also when you consider the way we looked against FC Twente and FC Porto. The Fenerbahce match is going to be tough. So we'll have to hope for maybe at least a draw on that one, in my opinion, because I don't think we're going to get any more out of that. And we're really going to have to bank on a very strong finish to the rest of the league phase if we want to avoid a round of 16 playoff. 1 win in 10 in Europe under Ten Hag does not fill me with a ton of confidence, though. The fact that no other Premier League club has conceded 3 or more goals in a match more times than United since Ten Hag joined the club doesn't fill me with confidence either. And that's coming from Opta Joe. So I'm finding it hard to find confidence, to find reasons to believe that we'll get some of these results just because history and my eyes tell me otherwise. But you guys let me know your thoughts. That is going to do it for me. Oh, Højlund too, by the way. Well done to grab a goal, Højlund. But you know what you don't want to do, bud? Don't jump on Instagram and start talking about how you're practicing your celebration and shit, bud. Read the fucking room, bro. Stay off social media. That should be a rule at the club from now on. When you have a shit result, stay off social media, because Højlund, I love you, bud. Well done to grab your goal. I think you're a great striker. Stay off social media. Read the room. I'm serious. That was completely just stupid decision from you. But let me know you guys' thoughts. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by this morning. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Ziad. Welcome to the channel, my friend. I will see you guys on the match preview because we got a match on Sunday right around, which it's Thursday, Sunday football these days. So, Danny, have a good trip, bud. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you guys on the next one. Later.